Hello, good afternoon. Friday edition of Gorilla Sports Off Ice. A fun episode coming for you guys today, but I did want to remind you guys about our great friends over at Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get a better interest rate and lower your monthly payment. Go to trustedamerican.com right now to see how much money they can help you save today. Hello and welcome in.
Do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome to the show. Anytime I hear myself say welcome to the show, it makes me want to say welcome to the show, and I try not to. And I just did it. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley, bringing you another Gorilla Sports Off Ice here on Friday. Meghan, how the heck are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I've calmed down a little bit after last night.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited for the show that we have planned today.
Yeah. We are going to unpack a little bit of what we saw last night. Avs Oilers, there's a 3-0 lead. The Avs give away. We're going to preview what is a big game coming up tomorrow. Division opponent coming to town. The Avs continue the homestand, a team the Avs are chasing in the standings. We'll talk a little bit about that. But, Meghan, I am very excited for this show today. The struggles that the Avalanche have had on the power play are not a big secret to anybody. This is something that there's a lot of emphasis around. There's a lot of conversation around. So, Steve Peters, Petey, our very good friend, will be joining us here on the show in about 30 minutes to help. Former NHL video coach. It's going to help us break down a little bit of what is going on with the Avs power play right now. What's broken? What can they fix? Where can they be better? All those types of things. And I'm just really looking forward to having that conversation with him and seeing what Petey's got to say. He's one of the best in the biz.
Yeah, 2 decades plus behind the bench, more or less, working as a video coach in the NHL. There's no one better to talk about what's going wrong with the Colorado Avalanche power play so that I can stop saying things like it's complacent and it's predictable and also they're overpassing and overthinking. It does sound a bit contradictory. And so I'm ready for somebody more qualified to talk about it.
He's going to just help us, break it down and have a better understanding of what it is that we're looking at and where these breakdowns are coming. Because like you said, it's easy for us to kind of take snapshots and say, hey, we're, not enough movement, or hey, it's stagnant or whatever. But I'm just really excited to have Petey come in and say, yeah, it is stagnant and this is what's happening, or no, it's actually not. And the opposite is the problem, or whatever it might be. So that'll be coming up here about halfway through our show. Petey will jump on and join us. Really looking forward to it. Also, just to talk with Petey, one of my favorite people that I've met in this industry. He's great. We were out in Nashville with him a couple of years ago at the NHL draft. Great to get to spend time with him. But all right, you said you calmed down from last night. I'm going to rile you up all over again. Not the game that the Avs wanted result-wise, but Meghan, if we're sticking true to what I talked about last night after the game, of taking that step back and appreciating an 82-game season, I'd have to say that Jared Bednar was less upset last night than he was after the Ranger game. They get the result they want in the Ranger game. They don't get the result they want last night. I think that was a little bit telling about, one, how bad the process was in that game against the Rangers, and two, the fact that, yeah, they didn't get the result they want, but it wasn't necessarily 60 minutes of bad.
No, there were 20 minutes of good in that first period. I know in that final minute or so, they allow a goal against, and I felt in that moment too the quick energy switch, because right after McKinnon's second goal, there was this sense that this is a McKinnon game. Like, I'd be scared. He just put Edmonton on notice, and you can feel it in the intensity of his game in that moment. And then there was this sense in just like those last couple shifts at the end of the period that they had laid back a little bit, because I think they even sensed that intensity from Nate and just felt like they had this game well within their grasp. And it was a fatal switch, though, because it was very minor. And it wasn't as if they completely abandoned hockey, but they abandoned it just enough because they grew a little bit too comfortable. And that set the tone, because then they're trying to chase in that second period. They make a better effort in the third, but because they're still chasing, it's become difficult.
Yep.
I think the thing I reflected on too is the Avs knew that they could overcome deficits of 3 goals because they did it earlier in the season, but they hadn't really been in that place where they needed to overcome it so much sooner in the game because they actually had the goal support early and lost it. Whereas before, it's like they went down a few goals and they chased the game from that place, and they could sort of point to goaltending as the frustration, like, well, we didn't get the goaltending, so we need to come back. It was just completely inner reflection that was required at that point, like for the team to look inward and say, oh, shoot.
Yep.
We let ourselves down in this one. And I look at where Edmonton was at coming into that game. They were on the second leg of a back-to-back, but it was a gut check game for them too, because they did not play the way that they wanted to against Minnesota the night before. Kind of like the Chicago game for Colorado and then how they responded in Minnesota. This was Edmonton's response going into Colorado. And so they absolutely had a say in it. They made Colorado pay. And I think my hope is that there's a lot of learning going around for Colorado right now, because they had that game within their grasp and they lost it. And they have been a dominant team in comeback efforts because they had to earlier in the year. They put themselves in this position last night. And so on the heels of the New York game and now this one, I think this should be a real look in the mirror time for the Colorado Avalanche. And it's at a good point in the season for it to happen. We're just past the halfway point. There's still a good amount of season left. And I look back to when Guerrilla Sports was the first to get that Devon Taves interview last year after the Chicago game. This feels like a similar moment. And you hate that teams have to go through this kind of turning point, but I think it's important for these lessons to happen in the regular season because it's far too late. If they're dealing with this kind of a letdown in the playoffs, they can't afford to.
No, I think it's I also think it's necessary I think every contending team has those moments. Really, in 2022, I think the Avs had that moment and granted, it came very early in the season. The back-to-back games against Columbus, again, back in 2022, that put the Avs at 4-5-1 at the first 10-game segment. And they lost 2 games to the Columbus Blue Jackets on back-to-back nights in uninspiring ways. I think every team goes through it. And I think I agree with the comment that came through here a minute ago that said they were happy that the Avs lost last night because it was an important lesson to learn. And I'm not ever happy or mad or sad or whatever like that, depending on the result. Like that's not my job. But it's one of those things where as someone who covers this team and thinks that this team, I do think this team is good enough to contend for a Stanley Cup, especially when they're healthy and they're playing the way that they want to play. I do think that this is a team that has a deep run in them because of the high-end talent. And when the depth is going, I think they do have good depth pieces. Do I think they could add some more and could be better? Sure, of course. But that to me was a game where, I don't have kids, but I remember as a kid, there'd be times when your parents would, do like, okay, well, nothing bad happened, but you can't do that again because, something could have. The Avs were kind of living consequence-free for the last couple of weeks, where they would find themselves behind in games that they were not playing well. And there would be a moment in the game that would kind of get them going, or the 6-on-5 would tie the game, and they'd, pull the goalie and tie the game and miracle overtime, or Nathan McKinnon would kind of pop off and blah, 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 blah. And they got away with bad play. And they got away with not doing the right things. And last night, I thought was a night where they did do things right. And they did have their legs going. And they got off to the start they wanted. But when you're playing against contending teams, like I think the Avalanche are, and like I think the Oilers are, that's what happens. And you don't get to live consequence-free. And so I do think that it was important for last night, the Avs to get the result they deserved. And I felt the result they got was the result they deserved. They didn't deserve to get blown out. Well, they probably earned about a 1-goal loss. And that's exactly what happened.
You don't want a dominant Nathan McKinnon performance to paper over bad habits that need to be addressed right now. And to your point, there's good things in how the Avs start this game. I just remember a big hit from Josh Manson that kind of set the tone early, because it wasn't just the intensity of how Nate was playing. It was a little bit of everyone at that point. Obviously, the OC goal is galvanizing too, to get a depth player on the score sheet so immediately. And it's born from hard work. I think I say that about every O'Connor goal, but honestly, the goals that I love most, that's what I get excited about. But there's a reason that the goals happen because of hard work. And so if the working stops even for a couple shifts in the final minute of that first period, that's the result that they get. It's not just like, I think there's sometimes a concern around the work ethic that is required in a Jared Bednar system. It's high. It is a high demand. In order to execute Jared Bednar's identity perfectly, it requires hard work shift by shift. And so that is a huge demand over an 82 game season. I think some people worry, is that sustainable? But that's the reason why the Avs are the Avs and the Edmonton Oilers are the Oilers. The Oilers rely on the offensive firepower in a lot of ways. Now, we saw some defensive breakdowns from Colorado too, but those felt a little more uncharacteristic, whereas McKinnon walking their top defenseman in Bouchard, it was like, yeah, that's kind of where they've sacrificed a part of their lineup, is in sort of the structure of their defensive play. The reason the Bednar identity works is because of the team effort, playing as a 5-man unit, but also how strong they are defensively. And when they abandon that, even for a couple seconds on a single shift, they pay the price for it. And so it is a high demand. And I think that's where even players who are regular core pieces on this team need to be reminded of that periodically. I think that was, to Tave's comments of overestimating themselves a little bit. I don't think this is just exclusive to players who are new to the team this year, players like a Parsonen who are just getting acclimated. I think even the core players need to be reminded of what it means to play in Colorado sometimes.
No, I I think you're right. And you and I have talked recently about Winnipeg and how they're this dominant regular season team. But when you saw them get up against the Avs last year, who were a real contender, it wasn't even close. And I think relative to what you're saying about, some of these core guys maybe even need to be reminded sometimes. Last night, I thought was a good kind of gut check night where it was, hey, these are the teams you'll meet in the playoffs. This is the quality of opponent. If you fall asleep at the wheel, especially against a team with a guy like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, this is what's going to happen. This is how it is going to play out. And so I actually think that in the overall scheme of an 82-game season, those are some good lessons to learn last night, along with some positives to take away.
PK. Mackenzie Blackwood.
Yes. Are you leaving? Oh, just saying hi.
She's just hanging out.
Chloe's saying hi.
She's going to do a trust fall live on the show.
That is like the third time you've brought up trust falls to me in the last week.
We just thought the meeting was going to conclude with some kind of team building exercise, and I told Chloe she should lead it.
All right. But I like I said, I think the Avs had too many consequence-free moments over the last number of weeks. And last night was a reminder that you have to play the whole game.
I want to key in on Teabag's comment about Kelly and Parsonen, because I have felt those have been some of the strongest players lately. And obviously Parsonen, he's still learning some things, so he's not mistake-free. But for a while there, briefly, especially through 2 periods, the Colton, Kelly, Parsonen line was one of the best possession lines 5v5. And honestly, Colton can have that effect on a line, but it's also born from the commitment from a Parsonen and a Kelly. Kelly was blocking shots, and he was getting some pucks on net. Colton has the puck touch, so he's able to at least get that possession started with his skill. And through hard work, players like Parsonen will win puck battles because he's willing to engage in them in the first place. And I think that's kind of a blueprint for what they need to be looking at. Like, there's a reason players like Parsonen and OC have been elevated in the lineup recently, and it is because of the hard work. And I wanted to shout that out. I didn't want Parsonen being the newest addition to feel like I was singling him out in a bad way. I actually have liked him a lot in these last couple games.
Jared Bednar even talked about the fact that they're starting to see a little bit more out of Parsonen that they were maybe hoping to get. As far as last night goes, I mean, look, I talked about this in the post game. I do think that there are times where we, like I said, whether it be as media, fans, people watching, I think it's easy to forget what a long year this is, how many ups and downs you're going to go through, how many ebbs and flows you're going to experience, whether it be in terms of special teams, goaltending, top players scoring a lot, top players going cold, getting a lot of help from your depth not contributing for a while. And when you pay attention to just one team, or not just one team, but we cover the Avalanche. There's Avalanche fans out there. I think it's easy to forget that every team goes through this. Edmonton got off to a really bad start, and they've
historically bad.
They've kind of been like the Avs, where they, have kind of been able to overcome it. To me, when I watch the Oilers, though, that's a team that still really hasn't addressed defense and has a major goaltending problem.
Yeah, they've made strides, but it's still not fully addressed.
The team defense has gotten better. They're a more cohesive unit. And yeah, when you've got McDavid and Draisaitl, you can outscore a lot of your problems. To me, that was more of what the Oilers did last night, was outscored the Avs kind of taking it to them early on and Stuart Skinner not being able to make a save. Well, the Oilers kind of found a way to overcome that. That's what they do. They score more goals than their problems create. But that is not a perfect team. Like you said, they had a bad night the night before. Go around the league and pick a team. The New York Rangers won the President's Trophy last year. They were a team that was marked as a Stanley Cup contender. They're on the outside looking in by a lot right now. The Florida Panthers are clinging to their playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. And then you've got teams like the Minnesota Wild and the Washington Capitals, who have gone the complete opposite direction that a lot of people thought they would. You got a team like the Winnipeg Jets that everyone said, oh, well, with everything that went into the way that they lost and the changes that were made in the offseason, they weren't expected to be a team that was much of a threat this year. And, what's going on with them? Well, they're sit at the top of the league. This is a long season. There's a lot that's going to happen. And the ebbs and flows of what the Avs are experiencing is the same thing that all the other top contending teams are going through who have that end goal of winning a Stanley Cup. But the power play does need to be better. The top guys do need to perform at a higher rate. Not at a higher rate, at a more consistent rate. The depth needs to find ways to contribute more regularly. And it's all got to start tomorrow for them. You got to take the lessons and you got to go into this game against Dallas and find a way to start correcting those things. You're not going to snap and fix it all tomorrow, but how can you start getting it on the right track tomorrow?
There's a component of accepting that the Avs have holes right now. A lot of it's due to injury. This is not even close to the complete picture, but it's also among the most complete we've seen all year. And that's why to see what they were able to do earlier in the year, trying to overcome some goaltending issues, it's unacceptable then. And so that's where, one, I want to shout out some of the practice updates from Evan Wall of the Gazette. Jared Bednar says that Val Nichushkin is close. I've seen his name come up in chat a couple of times. That is a player whose impact on this team is sorely missed and felt in his absence. I'm not saying he comes back in time for Dallas, but that is some hope that is on the horizon that's really important to this group. But all right, no Val tomorrow, probably. They still need to be better. And to your point, they've got a Casey Middlestat problem. Okay, the top six has not been a complete top six. It puts a lot of pressure on players like Nathan MacKinnon. You get your OC goal, you get 2 MacKinnon goals. It's got to be better than that then. Like, you're getting the depth contribution, you're getting a top performance from a top guy. You need more support from the second line. They don't really have one right now. They're going to make some changes going into tomorrow. They need to start seeing results. So they're going to discontinue the Mikko Rantanen at center experiment. It only survived a game. It's probably best this way. They're going to get Middlestat back on the second line, and they're going to give Ross Colton top line opportunity. Now, Colton's game has been a little up and down, but I alluded to the possession game on lines where Colton has made Casey Middlestat a better possession player. He has made that kind of Kelly Parsonen line a good possession line. And I think it's also in part the players that he's working alongside, but I think he is elevating those around him in a quieter way. I want to see the production then become maybe the louder part of his game, because I think when you look at a game where they fell a little bit flat, especially through 1.5 periods or so, Colton brings the energy. I want to see him take this responsibility in the right direction, because I think there are some players right now who are being rewarded for doing the right things and some players who are a little bit in the doghouse to try and inspire more from them. Colton is being rewarded with an opportunity, but he still needs, it needs to inspire more from him. And so I'm excited to see what that brings in the Dallas game, because it's Central Division points that they're battling for right now.
In that game last night, you always want the points, but with where Edmonton's at in the standings, you're really kind of like, that's not going to hurt us, terribly. Tomorrow's a divisional game. This is a team that you're chasing. If you want to avoid having to sit in that wild card spot and get one of the top teams at the top of the division, this is an important game for you, and this is a game that you need to have. We're going to have Steve Peters joining us here in just a few minutes, talking about the power play. He did just put out a video deep diving into the Avalanche power play, so we'll be bringing him on in just a few, but I do want to get a couple last thoughts in on what we are anticipating for tomorrow. It is an afternoon game. One of the first ones we've had in a while down at Ball Arena. It's going to be cold. It's going to be nasty. These are situations that Jared Bednar actually has even talked about the fact that he likes afternoon games as a coach, because he comes in, he does his meetings, and then it's go time. It's no morning skate, sit around, wait, talk with guys, go home, be anxious for the game, come back. He likes just being able to get into it and go. And I actually think that that is a good scenario for the Avs to be able to shake off what happened last night. You got a practice day today, good hard practice day, and then just jumping right back into things tomorrow. No morning skate, no time to overthink it. We're going to get Petey's input on if he thinks that overthinking is part of what is leading to some issues for the Avs right now in the power play. But it's just going to be about going out, playing, turn the page, and trying to get 2 points.
So far, Casey Middlestat's demotions have been finished prematurely because somebody leaves the game briefly. So he gets elevated back on the second line. This is now a conscious second line opportunity he's starting the game with. I hope that his mindset is different too, because he's not just getting the opportunity by happenstance. He's being placed there. And so I need to see him try and seize that opportunity, because I'm not giving up on Casey Middlestat. He's not doing enough right now. This is not good enough. It's costing the team in a way because of a trickle-down effect, but I still believe in him to right this ship. And then Bakar, a player who hasn't had a goal in 7 games, 5 points in his last 10. It's a player that I want to see get on the score sheet in a more impactful way than we've seen so far, just because I know he's capable of it.
Well, and truthfully, those players that you just named, those are also key contributors to the power play. Casey Middlestat, with the hands he's got in tight, his ability to make plays, the vision to make a pass, that's someone that you can definitely, early in the season, he was cashing in on the power play. He was kind of, we were making the joke that man, do you even put Jonathan Drouin back there? Do you even put Val Nichushkin back there once these guys return to the lineup? Because Casey Middlestat was playing that bumper position so efficiently. And so it is funny because so much of, I think, what you talked about does tie into the power play. And while Jared Bednar was pretty adamant yesterday that the power play is not sinking the team, it's not the reason they're losing games, you and I did discuss after that game last night that that's a moment where, you need your special teams to give you a boost.
Yeah, PK shows up. They kill every opportunity of a top 10 power play team in Edmonton with great goaltending from Mackenzie Blackwood. PK does what they need to. If they had converted on at least one of those 2 power play chances, this would have been a different game.
Yep. And when you get into the playoffs, that margin for error is even narrower. We literally saw it. Felt like in the Stanley Cup final, the Edmonton Oilers kind of kept their season alive because their power play was just clicking at such an unbelievable rate that if the Panthers took a penalty, there was nothing that they could do about it. And then the other thing that I thought was just so interesting that Jared Bednar said, which is something that you and I talk about, that when you take a penalty against the Edmonton Oilers, it's guaranteed 2 minutes in your zone where you're defending. And that's something that, aside from the Avs not being able to generate the offense that they want, they haven't been able to establish that just extended zone time, puck on their stick, snapping it around, build some momentum for your team in the offensive zone. That is something else that they've been missing from their power play. So, even last night, let's say you don't convert on either one of those. Had one of those power plays been better, maybe it does put the puck on your stick a little bit more, establish some more zone time, and lead to opportunities coming out of that power play. The Avs couldn't even do that last night.
No, because you hear Colorado, they're a possession team, but Edmonton came in and said, actually, we are.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it looks like. And I think the Avs still are a possession team. I think that's a key trait in their game, but it got exposed a little bit last night. Like, no, this is what it really looks like. It's been performative lately. I think that I talk about the Avs power play. I think sometimes they go through the motions to give the appearance of effort. I kind of talked about this with my criticism of somebody I know who does just enough to appear like they're doing the right things, but they're not fully committed, like 150%.
150%.
I need 150% commitment.
7 Brew Coffee doesn't have 150 flavor combinations, Megan. They got 20,000.
That's what I need.
And 7 Brew Coffee is a new one-of-a-kind drive-through and walk-up experience with a fast and friendly crew that is waiting to serve you. From rich, bold coffee to refreshing energy drinks, smoothies, teas, milkshakes, and more, 7 Brew has you covered. With over 20,000 flavor combinations, there's a perfect drink for everyone. At 7 Brew, they believe in cultivating kindness with every cup. Their fully customizable menu is just the beginning. Before you hit the road, power up with 7 Brew in Firestone, the newest 7 Brew location, and experience a coffee revolution. The Avs power play might need to make a stop at 7 Brew, or they might just need to make a stop in here and listen to our guest, Steve Peters, former NHL video coach, over 20 years of experience in the league. Petey.
Wow.
Great to see you, sir.
Oh my God. Last time we were all together, we were at an Airbnb in Nashville, Tennessee for the draft. It has been way too long. And it's ironic. We're meeting up at a brand new spot. So first, congratulations to the work you guys are doing. Phenomenal. I love watching you guys, and you guys are completely dialed into the team. And, I've always appreciated your work. So I can't tell you how honored I am to get the opportunity to sit in with you guys today.
Well, Petey, thank you so much. We are honored that you were able to take the time out. Petey did just launch a new channel that I could not more highly recommend you go subscribe to right now while we're talking to him. Petey, you were always one of our favorite people to work with when we were all under the same banner. But like you said, we're all different places now. Breaking down the game in a way that very few other people can have the ability to. And now he's got a channel where that's all he's doing. And just minutes ago, Petey put out a deep dive into this struggling Avalanche power play, breaking it all down in a way that, like I said, only an NHL video coach can. So if we can, we're going to dive into that a little bit. But either way, I recommend that when we're done here chatting with Petey, that you guys go check out the video, get subscribed to his channel, because it is nothing but great content. But Petey, I guess let's just start here, kind of broad strokes in your kind of pouring over what's been going on at the Avs power play. What were a couple of the key things that stuck out to you? It's easy for us to say, stale, overthinking, whatever, but from your perspective, what are the biggest glaring issues before we kind of get into the specifics?
It's funny with this Colorado Avalanche team. One of the things I've looked at power plays among the best in the NHL, when you look at the top power play teams, they have a couple of things. They have really good players, guys that are good 5-on-5, guys that put up unbelievable numbers, and they have a lot of talent. Second, they're groups that have played together for a very long time, that they become comfortable with one another. That's the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, that's what they are. That's their identity. And so when you look at the guys that they're throwing over the boards, it's stunning that they're not scoring. And it's funny. So I went back and looked at statistics. The last time, and I don't know if you guys mentioned that, if you did, well, we're doubling up. The last time they've gone 6 games without scoring a goal, you have to go back to 2021, back to the COVID shortened year. And in that 6-game stretch, they played the Vegas Golden Knights 4 times in a row. And that's back when Vegas, well, they're still good, but they were good then. And so they were ironically 0 for 16 during that stretch. This is still a really good power play, and they're still doing some good things. But right now, the biggest issue I have, the big overarching issue, is they're just not moving enough. Now that's the puck or the player. They got to get more active.
And you know, that was the real glaring difference last night, because we got to watch the Edmonton Oilers power play up close, you know, right there up against the Avs power play. And that was the number one thing that Megan and I were talking about in the press box is you watch that Edmonton power play, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, always in a different spot, always rotating, switching, moving. And right now it feels like, you know, Mikko Rantanen is so dangerous there from that circle, but it feels like he's not really giving himself many other options. Same for Nathan MacKinnon. A lot of the conversation that we hear about the Avs is the zone entry and the fact that, you know, you've got a one-man zone entry machine in Nathan MacKinnon, but they're getting just inside that blue line, and it feels like there's just too much predictability to what they're doing. Is that kind of what you're seeing as well?
You know, ironically, it's one of the areas that most teams, when they start to struggle on the power play, it is with their entries, and they can't get into the zone, even get into the blue line. Again, you talk about the speed of the Colorado Avalanche, similar to what Edmonton does on the power play. They just give it to 97 and let them go. The Avs give it to number 29. Just give it to them between the blue lines. The problem isn't getting there. I think they've been getting into the zone actually pretty well, and I'd still say that's one of their strong points. But it's what happens next. Like this, you're talking some really high-skilled, fast players. Move, do something. And unfortunately, right now, you talked about Rantanen off on the right circle. He is the scoring threat. Everybody knows on the penalty killing side, they're trying to get it to Mikko Rantanen for that one-time shot down low on that circle. Unfortunately, their other threats aren't there right now. Makar's struggling to get the puck through. He's getting shots blocked, missing the net a lot. He's not getting the shots through that he was before. And even when he does, he's really missing Nichushkin up front. And he's missing that big body in front of the net. And Nichushkin, you look at his power play numbers over the last few years, dude getting a lot of points. And it's just by standing around the blue paint. I know Middlestad's been good around that area and getting to the front of that. And they've been able to plug and play some guys there. You know, Colton's been good in there too. But they need that guy in front of that. They need Nichushkin. And the one that people are going to think I'm crazy. And by the way, one of my favorite players in the National Hockey League is Nathan MacKinnon. I love him. I think he's more dynamic. I'd pay to watch him play. Yeah. But I want Avs fans to watch him on the power play tomorrow against the Dallas Stars, one of the best penalty kill teams in the league, by the way. So I'm not good. But watch Nathan MacKinnon when he gets the puck. Nathan MacKinnon right now, he's got to move the puck quicker. Nathan MacKinnon right now gets the puck on a stick and he dusts it off. And what I mean by that is his stick handles 3 or 4 times as fast as like a hibachi knife guy. But nothing happens. You're not moving. The puck's not moving. And the penalty killers are going, okay, you can do that all day. Nathan MacKinnon has to get the puck off the stick because right now he's thinking, I've got to do more. I've got to be fast. But he's trying to be fast standing still. He needs to get the puck off his stick quicker. And I really believe when he does that, when Nathan MacKinnon can get the puck off his stick quicker, I think this power play is going to come to life.
And before I toss it to you real quick, we did get a comment here in the chat about why isn't Nate shooting more? Is that another issue that you're seeing? Not just getting the puck off his stick and moving it, but he's got such a lethal shot, not putting it to the net.
Well, it's not just him. It is Makar and Rantanen, what they're doing. And this is common across the league when your power play is struggling, when your 5-on-5 game is struggling, when you're going through a goal-scoring drought, you look for the perfect play. You're trying to get that through the seam, tap in play that you go Makar to Rantanen across to MacKinnon, tap in, great goal. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that way. That's not how teams are scoring in the National Hockey League. You need to be dirty. You need to get pucks to the net and you need to shoot. And right now, I think Nathan MacKinnon right now, and you go back, he hasn't scored a power play goal since October. Like,
oh my God, is that what? I haven't actually gone and looked. Is that what it is?
Buddy, October 28th. He hasn't scored a power play goal since October 28th. So you know that he's thinking and he's clutching that stick so hard. Just got to play. And it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. He wants to make that extra move or that extra pass or make that extra stick handle, looking for that perfect shot for the goalie to go down and find that little spot. And it's just not happening for him. He's got to make it simple. Puck on a stick, get it off your stick. He shoots quick. He's got a great shot. He can pick spots, but he's got to shoot more. Absolutely got to shoot more. And I think it's not just him. It's this entire group right now for the Avs.
Yeah. One of the criticisms of the Avs power play, especially early in the year, has been overpassing. And you've kind of addressed this in talking about being in search of the perfect play, but it feels like it ends up being just one pass too many. What do you think that boils down to.
It's again, it does go first to the perfect play, but I do think these guys are also trying to get their teammates going. This is a tight group that's been together. They've won a cup together, and hey, McCarr wants to defer to McKinnon. And McKinnon wants to defer to Rantanen. And sometimes it's okay to be selfish, and the power play is that time. They've got to start taking. Hey, I'm going to shoot. I can do this. I'm good enough to do this on my own. And they got to stop deferring to the rest of the group around them. And I do think that's another thing that will get this group going. I worked for a guy named Newell Brown. He runs the power play right now for the LA Kings. He was the power play coach for the Arizona Coyotes way back when the Coyotes were top 5 in the league in power play. He's one of the best power play guys I know. When power plays are struggling, you make it simple. And he would have a rule. It's 2 passes and it's going to the net. And that's it. And everybody on your team knows that's happening. So everybody's on the same page. We're not going to overpass it. 2 passes maximum, it's going to the net. So you watch, and I put this in the film, the Winnipeg Jets, that puck's going to the net, and everybody's getting to the blue paint. Right now, Colorado, even when they're getting those shots, it's 1 shot and they're done because no one's converging and helping out and aware that puck's coming to the net. So I do think simple is going to get them out of this rut. And eventually this team, hey, they're going to score. This is a good hockey team. They're going to score on the power play. I wouldn't worry about it too much. But they're going to have to get pucks on net, and they're going to need a dirty one. And you know what? I say this again. Dallas has the number 1 penalty kill in the league tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think that might help Colorado ease some of the pressure. Pucks at the net. We're going to make it simple. This penalty kill is so good. We have no time. Let's just throw pucks at the net. So I'm going to say it here on Guerrilla Sports right now with Jesse and Megan. They're getting a goal tomorrow. This drought ends tomorrow. It does not go past 6. I don't know if they win the game. It's a tough game to play, but I think their drought ends tomorrow for the power play for the Colorado Avalanche.
Hearing it here first from
I love
Petey.
to hear that. In Dallas, number 1 PK in the league, as Petey mentions, top PK. So that's going to be a tall task. I wanted to ask too, with some of the vulnerabilities on the power play, they have exposed vulnerabilities going the other way and allowing shorthanded chances against that has resulted in at least 2 shorthanded goals in the last less than 2 months. So I wanted to know where and why those vulnerabilities are being exposed right now with a struggling power play.
2 things. One is the shot blocking that we talked about before, where McCarr's not finding that lane, or it could be another player that's getting a shot blocked lower in the zone, or when they miss the net, the puck's coming out too quickly and you're not prepared to defend. That's one. Secondly, I think because of the drought, and I think that everybody's talking about it, I really do think these guys are really dialed into their offensive side of the puck to the point where all they're thinking about is trying to score a goal. And when you're doing that, you're starting to forget about the defensive side of the game. First of all, that's natural in a power play. You're trying to create offense on a power play. That's what you're out there for. And so you often see guys not thinking defense first. But you usually see the one guy that's able to get back and think defensively and try to break up those plays. But right now, I don't think that's the mindset for the Avs. I think the Avs right now are thinking we got to score. And I do think that's why you're seeing some of those 2-on-1s and breakaways going back the other direction.
Does that also, just in your experience, when you've got a power play that's struggling like that, and you know what Megan's talking about, does some of that stem from frustration where you're maybe thinking more offense minded than you normally would, even on a power play, because you are, like you said, gripping that stick a little bit too tight?
Without a doubt, you're thinking that, and you're thinking everything's downhill. And the other thing you're starting to see is when you're not creating that opportunity, when you're not getting that chance, start watching the body language of some of these players. Here we go again. And you see, we call it the shoulder drop. When you see that, the frustration sets in and you go, uh-oh. Yeah, they're almost preparing themselves to fail because it's happening so often. And that's why you need that positive reinforcement. And that's why you need a goal. Yeah, the only way out of this is to score. And it sounds funny, but that's the only way you're going to get out of it. And right now, their lack of scoring is creating them to score less because they're becoming so frustrated and the body language is so poor. And you're like, here we go again. Goalie makes a great save. You go, oh, here we go again. We're never going to score. And it seeps in. And it's really, really hard to break those things. And that's why you see teams, and believe me, this is not what's happening here. But when you see a team losing all the time and they can't score and they're dropping the shoulders 5-on-5, they change the coach because you need to inject something. And so the only other thing I can think of here for Colorado, like it or not, you might have to start swapping some personnel around. You might have to, and might be surprised. It might be some of the big guys. And it might be a wake-up call, whether it's 29, 96, or 8. Maybe one of them maybe sit out a power play, not the whole
Yeah.
game, not the whole period, maybe just this next draw. Or you know what? The first power play is second period. We're going to put the second group out first. You guys aren't getting it done. We're going to put these guys out first. And what that does, one, it gets the first group hungry because they want to score. And the second group's going, oh my gosh, we're going out instead of McKinnon and Ratnan. Well, let's get this thing done.
Let's go.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I do think you need to play some of those psychological games. And that's the responsibility of the coach to try to mix things up. And you know, I doubt they're going to have to really go to that so soon tomorrow, but don't be surprised if they fail on their first power play. You don't see things starting to mix up a little bit.
No, I actually like that idea of going to that second unit, first. And then the other question that I wanted to ask you was, because, you mentioned about how Kale and Nate, they maybe like to defer to each other. It also feels to me, maybe in addition to them not moving, that it's just gotten a little bit predictable. And I think maybe that ties in kind of with what you're saying, and mixing up the personnel and changing up where those threats are coming from. It just feels like there's so much of what they do once they do get that zone established, where guys are able to get sticks in lanes. Cause I know he's going to throw it. Did you see any of that when you were going through film where it's like, they're trying to pound these same plays home over and over?
It's funny. There's a point in the video where you see 5 or 6 plays in a row where the opponent has the stick in the lane, because either one, they're anticipating it, or two, there's no other play because they box themselves into a corner where they literally have nothing else to do. And I think I go back to my first comment. I think what you're going to have to do is you got to start moving. This team skates so well 5-on-5. And when you watch these top players 5-on-5 in the offensive zone, Nathan McKinnon doesn't stand still once. He is moving all the time. He is all over the zone. You'd like to track him around. He's moving all the time. In the power play, he stands still. And that's his greatest weapon, is his speed. So, hey, let's use it on the power play. Again, you mentioned it earlier when you talked about Connor McDavid on the power play. Connor McDavid is everywhere. He's not a traditional power play player. You can't say he's in the bumper. He's not a flank on either side. He just moves. And I think I really believe Nathan McKinnon would be a much more effective power play player if he moved. And when he starts moving, nobody can keep up with him. So you're going to get holes you're going to get holes. The penalty killers will try to keep up with them. You're going to create holes in behind, and it's going to be a great thing for all of his line mates, because he'll draw the traffic. He'll make the play. And I think they can get out of this. I'd really like to see more movement from these top guys instead of them getting to their spots and standing there. It's so stagnant. It's so slow. Start moving around.
The whole of Colorado's top 6 has experienced some struggles right now. They're still trying to figure out what that second line should be. So I was curious if the struggles on the power play can carry over to 5v5 scoring and getting that to translate. And if you can maybe draw upon experience, because I know you'd be speculating a little bit with Colorado right now, but if that is something you've seen.
Yeah, it is for sure. And you hear it on broadcasts all the time. Even if they don't score, they need to gain some momentum. And that does carry over for the next whistle, the next shift, the next period. It absolutely carries over, but it can have the opposite effect too when you don't score and you're not getting those opportunities, and then you start to slide. And that's what happened against the Edmonton Oilers last night. Colorado played outstanding for 30 minutes. I mean, they were fast, and McKinnon was lights out. They kept the puck on one half of the ice. They did a really good job. And as the power plays started to go over again, the tides turned. The momentum shifted. Wow. And I do think that's a big problem right now. And I like this Avalanche team. I am waiting. Ever since they hoisted the cup back at Ball Arena, I've waited for this team to put everything together again. And right when they fix one problem, another one, they're whack-a-mole. Another one pops up. Like they've got the goaltending. It's been a problem for years. Fixed it. It's great. Their goaltending is not a problem right now.
Yeah.
That's a power play. So you fix one, and another leak bursts up on another pipe. So I think this team can be extremely, extremely dangerous if they get healthy and they get on the same page and all of the engine starts clicking at the same time. I still believe this is one of the best teams in the Central and potentially in the Western Conference. But they've got to put it all together, and they've got half a season to do it. But you need to see them start correcting things, and the next thing they got to correct is this power play.
What, Petey, you have so much experience in these, coaching rooms and in these meetings. How do you message this in the right way to a team that is struggling like this? Because I'm sure there is a balance between, well, we don't want to beat up on you and make you feel worse, but we also want to make sure that we're pointing out the clear deficiencies in what we're dealing with. How does a message like this, when a team's going through a cold streak, how do coaches kind of navigate that?
It's funny, and unless you know the personality of your players, you really don't know. I will say this: the way Bednar approaches this team is going to be different than a coach would approach their players 10 years ago. Because 10, 15 years ago, there was yelling, there was screaming, it was sitting on the bench. It was a much more difficult atmosphere than you see now. And I'll coaches pat their players on the back. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Try harder. You have so much of that mentality right now in hockey that you've got to praise these guys. You have to approach them all differently. And without knowing how these guys react and what buttons they push, Bednar knows it. Trust me. He knows what buttons to push for these guys. He knows them inside and out. He knows what motivates them. He knows what he needs to do. But to that point, after 6 games, look for drastic. And I know sometimes you don't want to panic. And you don't want to show the fan base you're panicking. You don't want to show the players you're panicking. But it's 6 games. It's 16 attempts. It's time. Like, they need to score on this power play. And it's not system play. And you go, oh, they're getting chances. They're missing empty nets. Makar hits a post. They're still not scoring. You got to score.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised to drop the bomb. Okay, this first group, you know what? We're going to take McKinnon off the first group tonight. I'm telling you, it might be the last button he has to push.
Yeah. And then I also want to ask you, and we got Steve Peters here, just launched his new, it's
inside the coach's room. Inside the coach's room.
Right, I've also seen Petey's Puck Talks.
Yeah, Petey's Puck Talks are inside the coach's room, buddy. Everything's inside the coach's room. Easy.
I believe we had the link up here a minute ago. Boom, right there. There's a link. Make sure you are going and subscribing. Petey is the best inside the coach's room. Petey's Puck Talks, helping us break down the Avs power play right now. I want to ask you, because it has been a big topic of conversation among Colorado Avalanche fans for years. The slingshot drop pass. I like it for this Avalanche group because of the personnel that they've got, and that Cale Makar is a threat to carry the puck. And when they execute this right, and you've got Nathan MacKinnon with so much speed, what are your thoughts on the drop pass?
It's funny. I was sitting down and talking to a former NHL assistant coach today. We had a lunch together, and we talked about the drop pass, the slingshot, the double drop, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
32 teams in the league use it. Everybody knows it's coming. Everybody in the building, everybody on TV, every penalty killer, everybody knows it's coming.
Yeah.
You have to have it. But there are times you need to abandon it. There are teams that I would use it every single time up the ice, and 2 of those teams are the teams that played last night. Edmonton and Colorado, every time up the ice, I'm letting 29 and 97 carry the puck. Can't touch them.
Yep.
Go. Drop the puck. But you also need to be able to get the puck up the ice quickly, because every faceoff, that's the other point of this power play right now. They are not winning the first faceoff of the power play. They are losing it over and over and over. You lose 25 to 30 seconds every power play by losing that faceoff. And now you're waiting for the drop pass, the slingshot to develop. And that breakout takes time. You have to wait for the forwards to come back. It's about getting up the ice slowly and then quickly changing speed so that the penalty kill can adjust. It takes time for that to develop. So sometimes, and once in a while, I think you need to catch teams off guard, go back, make it look like you're going into your slingshot or your drop pass or your double drop, and then throw the puck up and beat guys up the ice. I would love to see guys use a 4-man back. Let's get the puck going. We're going fast and we're coming at you. Colorado can do that. Again, it's about team speed. Get the puck up the ice. Don't take, again, tomorrow, take a stopwatch and see how long from the time the puck is dumped on a double drop, how long a time drop passing shot to get across the blue line again. It's a long time. Defenseman, go back, get the puck, go. You've got Cale Makar going back there. Dude can skate. Like, let him go. Get the puck, turn, and go. I'd like to see that more. And I will also say this on the second group. I don't like seeing a drop pass with the second group on a power play. They get on the ice with 30 seconds, maybe 35 seconds to play, and you just don't have time for that drop pass to develop. Get the puck up the ice. Let's go.
And to me, with all due respect to a guy like Arturi Lehkonen, it's not really quite the same threat as Nathan MacKinnon coming downhill, right up the middle of the ice. It's just not quite the same.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Drouin talked about the power play after the Edmonton game, and he said in practice they feel good about it, that it looks good, it feels good. What do you think is the block then in game? Obviously, in addition to the penalty kill unit on the ice having a say in it.
Yeah, it's funny. Practice is an area where you want to get the confidence. I think it's important that a power play has confidence. And I've had this debate with head coaches throughout the years that you run your power play 5-on-0. And every power play in the league is going to look good 5-on-0. And you're running through set plays, you're getting puck movement, everybody's excited, and you're scoring goals. One, you're shooting against your own goalie, who, and it's usually your backup or your third string guy that's taking the power play time. Man, dude, he just want to get hurt. You know, he's taking one-timers from Rantanen down low. So I think you're going to get a little bit more of the opportunities against that goaltender. And if you are playing against penalty killers, they understand the assignment. This is a power play practice. We're practicing the power play. So you're going to get those guys backing off. They're not playing at the same pace that you're going to see when you play against the Dallas Stars the next day. So I do think it builds your confidence. And I think that's important. I do think you do the 5-on-0. I do think you build the confidence.
Interesting.
But then you do need to, before you get off the ice, you need to get your penalty killers out there and go, okay, this is live. We're going live. We're going 5-on-4, full speed, and winner gets an ice cream cone after, or whatever that may be. The loser does laps. Whatever it is, make it competitive, make it full speed, and make it as game-like as you possibly can. And I think that's the best way to finish that kind of a playoff, so that when you leave the ice that day, you're prepared mentally and physically for that speed and that pace to come at you. And I don't know. I've never been to an Avs practice, so I don't know if that's how Bednar approaches that. But you're right. You got to translate enough to get that confidence, but you also have to do things at game speed so you're not surprised when you get out on the ice the next day.
We got Steve Peters here, and we've only got a couple more for you. You've been extremely generous with your time, Petey.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been so great to see you.
I'm honored, Jesse. I mean, you guys don't have any idea what this is because we've all come from a different background. I will say this, that you guys are really lucky, because once you start doing this on your own, and the YouTube channel started today. And by the way, dude, that ain't easy. Like, we had producers and we had interns and we had college kids with graphics design degrees. Dude, it's me. Well, it's hard. It's hard. So if anybody's a really good speller and knows how to put some stuff together, shoot me a DM, because this is tough. So I do, and all kidding aside, I missed you guys. Like, you guys are great at what you do, and luckily for you guys, you cover a really good team. Unfortunately, I didn't get that opportunity.
The team helps, but Petey, we feel the exact same way. We're so lucky to have you on here today. We've been talking about, you texted us a few weeks ago saying, hey, let's link up on some stuff. And I think Megan and I have talked about it pretty much every day. I went and pulled a kind of a crude screenshot here. There's Inside the Coaches Room with Petey. That YouTube channel, like he said, did just launch today. Go get subscribed. It is some of the best content you are going to find anywhere, breaking down hockey, the NHL teams. And again, you can see it right there. Power outage, that video that just went live about 30 minutes ago, breaking down this Avs power play with film from a former NHL video coach. Petey, we'll throw a couple last ones at you, and then we'll let you get out of here. You mentioned Val Nichushkin earlier and how much he can help this team. When this team is at full health, and this is aside from the power play, you've mentioned a couple times you like him. I think that this is a cup contending team when they're healthy and going. Do you feel the same way about the Avalanche, or do you think that this team is missing a couple pieces?
It's hard. Yeah, the answer is yes. I think the West is open. I think there are a lot of good teams in the West, and I put Colorado Avalanche into that group, but they do have to be healthy. And I love that they fixed the goaltending problem that they had. And how's Wedgie doing? When's the last time he's been between the posts?
I mean, he's one of the best.
I love Wedgie. He's one of the best backup guys in the National Hockey League. He understands his role. He goes out and gets his wins, quiet, and goes about his business. So they've solved that problem. We talk about injuries, and it goes back to the Stanley Cup. I mean, Landeskog hasn't played since they hoisted the cup, and that is killing this team. And I know there was, rumors over the summer he might come back. He might not come. He might come back. Right now, this team has to approach life like he's not going to play again. They have to. Yeah. And hearing he's part of the injury list at this point, not laughable, but you got to move past it. He's not a part of this until he is. So let's look past him. Nichushkin, because you don't know. Like, what's going to be for him next? I don't know. I like the player. I like the player a lot. I like the player probably better than a lot of people do. I think he makes a big difference whether he's on the score sheet or not. I like Val Nichushkin. And I do think he's a guy that needs to be playing and playing at his best. But when he does that, this top 6D, they're this is solid 6D. They move the puck
Yeah.
incredibly well. You've got good goaltending. You got top 6 forwards that can buzz up and down the ice. Everything you need to do to win. The question marks come into, do they have that bottom 6? Do they have the pieces to win a Stanley Cup? It's the bottom 6. Everybody, by the time you get to the cup, is going to have that top 6. They're going to have that.
Yeah.
It's the guys that can grind it out in the corners. The guys, the third and fourth line guys, can they get off the ice even or better for the majority of the games? And when they do that, and you saw that with Florida, all 4 lines play exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And when you have that, you have a chance. I'm not sure the Colorado Avalanche don't need one more guy on that bottom 6 to help grind this thing out and help them get across the finish line. I'm not saying they have to have that, but I'd like to see them go out and try to acquire something like that at the trade deadline. Beside that, this team's good. They just need to put all the pieces together at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Petey, I wanted to ask you about your episode coming out with Dave Tippett. If you wanted to promote it, it's been teased as something really cool. What can people expect from that?
Megan, I tell you what, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I will say that. so I'm trying to figure out what to do with this YouTube channel. I know all these coaches because I worked with so many of them, and I said, hey, I've seen Dave Tippett get interviewed 100 times. Seen it. But I've known Dave Tippett. I know him, inside and out. I've worked with him for several years. I know the good stories. I know where he likes to go eat. This is going to be, it's going to be different. I hope it's different. There's all kinds of podcasts out there. There's hockey people, there's broadcasters, there's experienced journalists. I'm none of those things. I know the game and I know the people, and I want to have fun. I want to get Dave Tippett. I'm going to ask him some hard questions, maybe not some super hard ones, but hard ones, because I want to know. I'm going to approach it like a conversation. I want to know what it felt like to get fired. Wait, I know what it felt like for me because I've been through it. It's another story, another day. But I want to know what it felt like. I want to know what it felt like coaching Connor McDavid. Did he play him too much? Did he wish he approached that differently? We're also going to tell fun stories. I think it's funny. I got this idea literally yesterday morning. I go and take a run every morning and I try to clear my head. And this is where I came up for the idea of the coaches coming on the show. And I got home and I called as many head coaches as I knew. I've got six yeses already.
Nice.
And
awesome.
we are going to have, it's once a week to start because I talked about the prep, and we're going to talk to coaches, and we're going to talk to coaches from all across, North America, from the NHL, and talk and tell stories and talk about how they coach. How do you coach? How would they get out of this power play mess? And I'll ask them that. So I want to find out how they'd approach these problems. Well, how would you approach the problem you're seeing in Vancouver or New York? And I want to ask these NHL coaches how they deal with it. So I'm really looking forward to it.
We got a question here. Did you work with Torts?
I did. Torts was one of the first coaches I had, and Jim Schoenfeld is the head coach back in 1997, and John Tortorella was the assistant for 2 years of the Arizona Coyotes.
What is it like to work with John Tortorella closely?
I tell you what, the public perception and the reality behind the scenes are two different people. John Tortorella might be one of the nicest people I've ever met in the game of hockey. He's gracious.
Awesome. I believe
he's
him.
kind. The problem with the perception of John Tortorella is John Tortorella is going to tell you the truth. There is no gray. It's black and white. And it's difficult to do. And you can sit here and say, I'll go tell a player you stink at this, or you're not good at this. I'm telling you, and I've seen really, really good coaches struggle with that, sending a message to a high end player. It's hard. Because you're going to be in for a battle. You're going to get the agent call, the GM call. John Tortorella goes through those barriers and he tells you the truth. He doesn't do it mean. He's not doing it to belittle the person or the player. He wants the team to succeed. And to do that, the individuals need to succeed. And to do that, you tell them the truth. It's not good enough. And if it's not good enough, you're not going to play. And I think that's perceived in this world right now as always mean. He is an unbelievably nice human being. Like I'm sincerely, I see him from time to time. Our paths cross, and it's always, he calls my son by name. How is he doing? How are you doing? He loves to fish. He loves being outdoors with his horses. Like, he's a great guy. Yeah. So the perception, it doesn't always match the reality.
And then I'm sorry, this is the last one. And I'm so sorry, but you said something a minute ago. You were talking about Gabe Landeskog, and you've been inside you've been on the inner workings of an NHL organization. We hear from so many Avs fans that the Avs need to give the captaincy to someone else and stop waiting for Gabe. I asked Jared Bednar about it last year, and he, essentially kind of alluded to, reading between the lines, saying, hey, look, if we've got to put a specific letter on a guy's chest to make him a good leader, well, that's maybe kind of defeating the purpose. Where do you fall on? Do you need a captain, or do you just need strong leadership? It doesn't matter what's on your chest.
It's funny because I do have thoughts on this, because the Arizona Coyotes, before I left, didn't have a captain. Oliver Ekman-Larsson lost the captaincy and left, and he was at a third team before Clayton Keller finally got named captain, and that was in Utah. I believe there needs to be a captain of a team. However, Gabriel Landeskog is the captain of this team. And as long as he is around, and as long as he is anywhere near the facility and he's got his name in the locker room stall, he's the captain of this team. He's led this team to a Stanley Cup. He's shown that he's been a leader to this team, and he's had some big voices that he's had to go up against in that locker room. Hey, don't make no mistake. Nathan McKinnon's a loud voice. You guys have heard it. Like, McKinnon's a loud voice in that locker room, and you have to have a leader that can push back against that. And that's Gabriel Landeskog. I think of Jonathan Taves. And Jonathan Taves stopped playing, but he kept the C. And I think it's very similar in Colorado. I don't think they need a captain change until Landeskog says, I'm done, and walks away from the game and says, I can't do this anymore. And until then, if he's still part of this organization and in the room and around the medical room and around these players, he's this captain of this team.
There you go. He's Steve Peters. Inside the Coaches Room is the new YouTube channel. We'll continue to link it here on this show. And I highly encourage everyone, I've already retweeted it, to go watch the Petey's breakdown on the Avs Power Play. Petey, thank you so much. I guarantee we'll have you back on here very soon.
I just, again, thanks to both of you. I appreciate you giving the opportunity, because you guys have both been through this, man. And you're so used to talking about the game every day, and all of a sudden that just goes away. It's hard. And I appreciate you, and so gracious that you gave me the opportunity to get out and talk about hockey again. So thanks guys. And I can't wait to come back and talk to you guys again.
Yay.
Petey, open invite. Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you today. We will talk soon, and we will have you back. And anything that we can do to help you as well, to promote the Coaches Room, we are going to do that. Petey's a great friend of ours, and one of the better people in this industry. So really appreciate it, Petey. And we'll be chatting with you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. See you. All right. That was Steve Peters from Inside the Coaches Room. New YouTube channel just launched today. Make sure you go check that out. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find the links to those videos, and especially the one on the Avs Power Play, that breakdown on my page, on my Twitter page right now. There was a super chat that we missed, and I want to make sure I got back up to it.
I was just cracking up over I've heard enough. You're hired.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, Petey, will you come fix the Avs Power Play, please?
The question was, how much does the power play miss Val? And Petey answered the question without even being asked.
Right.
Saying a lot that is the number one thing that what I thought was interesting maybe was he specifically pointed out how much Cale Makar misses Val Nichushkin on that power play.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the personnel change comment. First of all, my brain immediately went to Ray Bennett, but that wasn't what he meant. That wasn't what he meant. And absolutely, Val Nichushkin is sorely missed. There are things that Lehkonen does well, kind of as the net front guy, but Val Nichushkin's everything. He's all of those things that maybe a Casey Middlestat has done well in that role, or a Lehkonen has done well in that role. And Val's all of it, and he's powerful, and he's long, and he's a built-in screen in addition to everything that he does well. And so it is a force to be reckoned with, because I think there's more inclination to put pucks on net when a Val Nichushkin is there. I think unconsciously there's just a trust. And so I think so much of their issues boil down to trust, whether it's a lack of trust in self in Nathan McKinnon, as Petey said, dusting the puck off a little bit too much, holding on to it for a second too long in search of the perfect play. There's lack of trust in not only his ability to find it, but also the recipient to be in the right place to receive it. And so it's also a lack of trust then in each other in that sense. And that's where I think unconsciously, because I don't think they're standing there on the power play thinking, I don't trust my teammates and I don't trust myself. But when you've got a Val Nichushkin at the net front, I think there is just a natural trust to put that puck on net. Same thing with Landeskog when he was in that role. And I think that's why the power play, I describe it as a top of the league power play year by year for that reason. It's consisted of a lot of the same personnel, Val Nichushkin kind of being a part of that core, Gabriel Landeskog in the past as well. And that's what I think is a little bit of the issue there. And I think Petey summed it up really well in talking about them moving their feet. When I talk about complacency, I think that is the issue. They're moving the puck, but they're not moving themselves. And the cycle is the cycle because it's not just cycling the puck through passing. You have to be moving as well. And so I think that's a wonderful reason why it's also felt stagnant and still, is because it's quite literally, they're like the statues of the best hockey players in the world on the power play right now.
Petey boiled it down. Meghan was just saying, too much standing around, not enough shooting, not enough creativity. And then he did specifically call out missing Val Nichushkin is hurting as well. I don't think we need to add anything else to it. Petey is one of the best in the business. I wanted
to affirm something.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think that's all I've got for today, but I want to hear this affirmation.
No, I want to affirm something when he's like the personnel change, right? Like maybe you just need to kind of switch things up. Someone in the chat earlier pointed out they were able to get this power play going when Ivan was in the bumper spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Casey Middlestat found some success there early on too. And so I think PD's 100% correct. Do something a little bit zany and unconventional just for right now.
And was there not a point earlier this season where Jared Bednar did roll the second power play unit first, and it kind of did serve as a little bit of a wake-up call?
I'm trying to think because you're right, and the reason I remember it is because Val Nichushkin was on PP2 briefly at the start of last year, and he had to work his way back up for the Lehkonen swap. And so there was something similar this year that made me think of that.
$4.99 from Vaguely Sober. I hadn't seen you in the chat. I was getting a little bit worried there, Vaguely. I'm not necessarily sick, but man, I think I'm just tired as hell this week.
This is such a classic girl thing, but like the day that I don't really wear makeup, someone sends a super chat that I look sleepy or sick. And I don't want Vaguely to feel called out because this has happened before, not with Vaguely. Like there was a hit I did at the rink maybe 2 seasons ago where I just didn't really wear makeup. I went pretty natural and someone is like, is Megan okay? Like, is she physically okay? And they were legitimately worried for my health. So I'm okay, I promise. I just didn't wear as much makeup today.
Yeah, no, I was getting in bed last night and I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yes.
Another $5 super chat from Kay. I'm just sad and mad about the Avs, but I'm not sad and mad at you guys. So here's a super chat. Well, thanks.
Hey.
Thanks. We're also
Thank you
not
so much.
sad and mad at any of you.
Kay had a funny post-game comment. I want to say after New York, something like, I'm not going to say it right, but there's something about like, how do I appropriately react? Like I want to overreact so bad right now. And I wanted to affirm that you're never overreacting. And Jesse wasn't working that game. So I even wanted to reply like, there's no parents. There are no rules. You can overreact with me.
There are no rules. Oh my gosh. Vaguely been super busy. That was why I didn't see him in the chat today. So I was a little bit nervous, but found him. And the cat has made its way onto the set, Vaguely.
Lucky cat.
It is on the set. $2 from Hurricane. How are the magnets coming? Megan was actually just asking me for a status update on that the other day. My wife and I are working diligently.
I told my mom I trust as long as Hannah has a hand in this.
Yeah. Don't trust me. Trust her. Okay. I think that's going to do it. Megan, any final thoughts?
Not now.
I do want to, once again, guys, Petey is one of the best in the business. Do want to make sure that you guys go throw him a subscribe over on YouTube. He was unfortunately part of the large layoffs that were had for another media company, another digital media company right before Christmas. So, we've been chatting with him the last couple of weeks. And he's got his channel stood up and he's got some awesome stuff in the pipeline. Make sure you go subscribe to that. Right there on the screen is the YouTube channel. PD is one of the best. Make sure, and while you're on YouTube, if you aren't already, make sure you are subscribing to Gorilla Sports as well. Like the video and all of that. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. Big thanks to Steve Peters from the inside the coaches room for stopping by today. Thomas behind the glass, making sure you guys can see us, hear us, and making sure that all of our guests made it on. All right. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the weekend. We'll be back at it tomorrow with game day coverage. Then we'll be back on Monday with another episode of No, we won't be back on Monday because it'll be a matinee game on Monday well.
And a holiday.
And a holiday. So we'll be back Tuesday with another episode of Off Ice, but we'll have a couple days of game day coverage. So you're not rid of us just yet for the weekend. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a good weekend. Stay warm if you're here in Colorado.
Yikes. Yeah.
Have a great afternoon, guys. We'll see you on tomorrow. Bye.